So I just turned 23, and I think the most common question that people get asked on their birthday is, how does it feel? And for the most part, the answer is always good or okay. But since this is the last year of my early 20s, I think it's finally time to give an honest answer. I think for the most part, your 20s is a lot of questions, but pretty much no answers. What should I do for work? Should I move to a different city? Should I go travel? Should I even move out at all? How much money should I be saving? Should I start a business with my parents? Now, these are all questions that I've recently asked myself, but instead of answering each question at a time, I'm just gonna break it down. I think career is probably the biggest thing on your mind in your 20s. It is at least for me and most of my peers that I talk to. I think it's because this is the time where you've just finished school or about to finish school, I guess. And unless you're an entrepreneur, you probably experienced a little bit of full-time already. I think career is the biggest thought in your mind because this is also the time when you realize that what you've been working so hard towards is not all that glamorous. The transition from full-time work is honestly a little depressing. You'll have to manage things like work-life balance, get a better understanding of how money works, and you'll find that you worry more and more about the future. And the thing is, there's a lot of pressure. You feel like you should have things figured out. You should know what you want, but you don't. I don't know where I see myself in 5 years. I don't know if what I'm doing right now is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Hell, I don't even know if I like what I do right now. And as time feels like it's going faster and faster, you begin to feel like you have less and less control of your life. For me, I began to question what I was doing for the past 5 years. Why did I work so hard for whatever this corporate life is? For some people, this is the time you switch careers. You start exploring other things than what you studied, or you settle in and take in what corporate life has to offer. Now, I just want to say there's nothing wrong with full-time work. And I heard that in your 30s, you actually start to appreciate all the things that full-time has to offer, and people actually enjoy their lives in corporate. And honestly, I see it. But at this age, it's hard to really appreciate those things when your image of what you thought your life after graduation is like is shattered. Money is probably one of the more sensitive topics in your 20s. It's starting out, you probably won't have a lot of it, and maybe you even have some debt that you have to pay back. But this is also the time where you start learning how to make money, and you'll also begin to see what type of relationship you have with money. And if you don't know what type of relationship you have with money, I recommend reading The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It definitely gave me a different perspective on how different people view money. For that reason, I can't tell you a generic feeling of how people think of money in their 20s, but I can definitely tell you that money will be in a lot more conversations, whether you like it or not. Whether it's investments, taxes, owning a home, the cost of living, it will definitely be one of the biggest things on your mind because everybody is talking about it.
Oh my God, can we talk about the political and economic state of the world right now?
If there's anything that sums up your 20s, it's finding your personal identity. Yes, your career and money are probably the biggest things on your mind, but those things will settle down once you decide what you want to do with your life. Most likely you'll go back and forth asking yourself if you should travel more or maybe focus more on your career. Maybe you should start a business or start a side hustle. You'll also have to determine what lifestyle you want to live. If you want to go partying, raving, or if you like to stay indoors and just read. And there's really no wrong answer. It just depends on what you prefer. I think the trigger for me creating this video is a quote by Alex Hormozy, which pretty much sums it all. There's no perfect way to live your 20s. You either live them up and become an underskilled 30-year-old, or you work them up and become an underlived 30-year-old. You just have to figure out which one you'd rather be, accept the trade-offs, and know there are no do-overs. I think for me, that's a pretty hard thing to swallow. I want to make the most of my 20s, see things, go places, experience life, But at the same time, I don't want to fall behind from my peers. So far, I really haven't picked a side. And maybe I'll just be a moderately lived and skilled 30-year-old. I don't want to miss out on anything, But at the same time, me thinking so hard about it is making this time so difficult that I forget to just live. And so I've been trying to take it a little bit more do as you go mentality. I think for me, I value a little bit more of the life side, but I guess this is a part of being in your 20s. You just gotta figure it out. Baba, I think 20s is a pretty interesting time for relationships. Not just in terms of romantic relationships, but also with your friends and family as well. So let me break it down for you. So for friendships, at this time, you'll see friends less and less. You'll find some friendships drift away, but you'll also see the ones that last have a much more meaningful and deeper connection. At this time, you'll realize that you have to put effort into these relationships and to maintain them. Even though your schedule might be busy, you'll somehow manage a way to see them. Either way, you'll see them less and less because of just other things in your life. I don't even know what I'm busy with. But on the brighter side, you'll also appreciate the time with them more and more because you'll have less of it. For romantic relationships, you'll either find that your friends are hella single or they're in a long-term relationship. I don't know why, it just seems like that. Like, even when I'm thinking about it. If you're in a relationship, you will probably find that you're spending most of your time with your significant other. This is the time where you get to grow together, you get to experience what life is like together. You have a best friend to experience life with, and that is one of the greatest feelings ever. On the other hand, being single, you'll find that you have a lot more time to yourself. But to be honest, it's not actually that lonely. I was single for a pretty long time, and in that time, I was able to tackle a lot of my internal issues and problems with myself. And that gave me a lot of peace. And I actually enjoyed being by myself. I think the most significant change you'll see is with parents and family. There's a general understanding that we blame our parents for how we are. But in this time, you'll begin to understand that your parents did the best they could with what they had. And I think that is the biggest thing and the biggest mindset shift that you will have in your 20s, from your teens to your 20s. You'll stop blaming your parents and you'll start to appreciate them more and more. It is honestly a weird realization, but one that is, it's heartwarming, and it makes me feel a lot more loved. And one day, maybe your kids will blame you for their mistakes as well. If there was one word I can use to describe my 20s, it is uncertainty. Personally, I think it's a little hard for me because I do enjoy being in control of my life, but at the same time, I think it's good for me because it is developing a new way on how to live and appreciate life. I don't have any advice on how to deal with these things because I'm currently going through them myself, but I find that the harder I think about it, the more stressed I become. So I think it's better to just let go. And I'm learning to do that too. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.